guys. I know it's been like a month for me, so forgive me. I just can't catch a break, and I'm not looking at the camera. I just can't catch a break. So, again, we don't really have anything planned to talk about. Drop it in the chat, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah.
I still don't even know where to look.
Right here. Look right here.
Yeah, so right off to the side. Let's
Ben's
see.
Overdrive. Oh, cool. Anything planned to talk about? Drop it in the
That's
chat.
awkward. Someone's. I think that was you, right?
That was me.
Yeah.
No, the playback started on my tablet.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess we can start with Soup Tick. He says, I think I have a venous leakage problem and I'm getting erections daily, but it does not last. I had to squeeze my pelvic muscles to maintain it. What should I take to cure it? So, right off the bat, venous leak is a lot more uncommon than PE circles like to make it admit. Or, they like to say. Right? Because it's like actual damage to the veins of the tissue. It's probably more likely a pelvic floor issue, right, Adam? Perv.
Yeah, so that's the thing, and you can call me either one. I don't care. The venous leakage, it's one of those things, man, where I think we want to have these diagnostic terminologies applied to us whenever we're doing PE because we all just want really solid, concrete answers about what we should, we should do. When the fact of the matter is, even in the clinical world, even in medicine, most of the times it's not one thing going on with a person that's causing a particular issue, right? It's oftentimes a multifactorial sort of thing that's contributing to these issues. And so potentially, sure, you could have some venous leakage going on, but is that the full extent of your erectile, issues? Are there other things that you could be doing to maximize that? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Like, to me, if you're squeezing your pelvic floor harder, it's more than likely the root cause is that you don't have enough strength, whether it be from overdoing PE or just, hypertonic pelvic floor, whatever, causing it rather than venous leak. Like, let me actually check venous leak statistics.
It's not as common as people. I'll say this: the instance of the frequency with which people talk about venous leakage on Reddit far outweighs the actual, what should we say, like a real life occurrence of it, if that makes sense. Like it does not happen in real life nearly to the extent that a lot of people will sort of make it out to seem. And so that's sort of an issue with PE terminology and us just again wanting to apply these labels to ourselves so that we get some sort of concrete answers, diagnostic possibilities, I suppose.
Yeah. Also, I think there's two different things going on because there's like venous leak, and that's a broad term. It can be just your vasoconstriction, right? So if you're not squeezing enough, that's a pelvic floor issue. And then there's the actual flipping of the valves of the veins, that just allows blood to escape. So
so
either way, it's like
venal.
Go ahead.
Oh no, what you're saying is, what you're saying is absolutely a possibility. There does exist a possibility that some of these people do have prolapse in those valves, and that's causing a big portion of their issues. I'm not saying it's causing the main issue or it's the only thing that's going on with them, but yeah, it can absolutely cause these sorts of issues that he's describing.
Yeah, but really what I'm getting to is that there's two kinds of venous leaks. Pelvic floor dysfunction is probably the leading cause of it because it's like very easy to strain a muscle compared to literally inverting flow of a vein, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, what's the intervention for both of those? if you have prolapse in your actual veins, what can you do about it? Well, nothing really, honestly. Once those structures are broken, they're done. The only real, if you have like large valves, that are prolapsed, yeah, of course you can go in and surgically fix those. I mean, we talk about replacing like the valves or repairing the valves like in the heart, like when you have mitral valve prolapse. That's a common enough sort of precedent for it. But just to kind of put it in perspective for you, there's not going to be a vein in your penis large enough that they can go in and surgically repair it. So my point is this: being overly diagnostic about like which part of it is the causal factor, it doesn't really matter when you only really have one intervention that you can perform, right? You can take care of your pelvic floor, and that's about it.
Yeah. And then there might be some neurological issues associated with the smooth muscle, but regardless,
Sure.
that still is in the realm of physiotherapy and relaxation of the pelvic floor, which then changes the tone of the penile structure, which then allows the smooth muscle to constrict easier. So, regardless, more than likely than not, you have some kind of mild pelvic floor strain that's causing your issues. And if this just started, it's probably easier to just take some time off from PE, see if it improves, because then it's a fatigue issue rather than an actual structural issue.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, I think we beat that one to death, and hopefully we did that under 5 minutes. So, and hello everyone. I'm just picking for interesting chats at the moment.
So I've got a question. I've got a question on my end, and it's actually a really good question. Okay.
All right, hold on. I sound like a congested dog, and that is because I am a congested dog. It's crazy weather here, and anytime that happens, I get really sick. So, forgive me, guys, but go ahead, Adam.
So Russell Santos 4668 says, "What's up, guys? So as a power lifter, should I do my PE sessions before or after lifting?" So interestingly enough, you want to know something like that? A piece of data that I've gathered from coaching recently is that a lot of guys have noticed that they're flaccid and that doing PE takes maybe just a little bit longer. Their flaccid is a lot shorter after training. And I had never really thought about this, but it's a sort of obvious answer if you kind of know what training does to your central nervous system.
Are you talking like weightlifting training?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when people go and work out, exercise, train, whatever you want to call it, lift weights, we are engaging our sympathetic nervous system. That is our fight, flight, freeze nervous system. And so what we find is that we have a systemic elevation in tonus. And that is to say that all of our muscles, they tighten up, they ready us for, action. Our body is basically getting ready to fight the bear, as it were. Mm-hmm. And so that includes the musculature of your pelvic floor. So there is an interesting sort of phenomenon that will happen when we are overly engaged in our sympathetic nervous system. That is that our blood flow will preferentially become, it will flow more readily towards our torso and in our torso. So it's more centralized rather than peripheral. And so a lot of the times what you're noticing after you have done physical training is that, yes, you will have a smaller flaccid. And I've just had so many guys reach out to me and ask about this because they're just like, Perv, what do I do? I'm having this, this major issue. And I'm like, okay, I've never actually thought about that. I've never, like dug in my pants after I've gone and done like a really heavy squat and been like, yo, what's up down there?
So you can't even, you don't even notice because like when I'm at my 1 rep max, it's the only time I turtle. Like ever.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Perhaps I am just so used to it that I don't notice. But typically I'm so exhausted and I train in the evenings and at night. So typically, I'm like driving home at like, I don't know, 10 or 11 at night after training. And so, yeah, I'm not.
That's crazy. because I lift at like
I'm not
6 to
doing.
7. So
So to answer this guy's question, I'm not certain that I have a definitive recommendation for you, dude, in terms of doing your PE session before or after lifting. In terms of efficacy or like return on investment, I don't necessarily think that I would tell you that you're going to get better results one way or the other. What do you think, BD?
okay, so rule of thumb: whenever you get back into parasympathetic response, so that's like what 4 to 6 hours after training, is what I would recommend. That being said, I would do it immediately following training. Granted, I'm not a heavy lifter typically. I rarely do like a 1 rep max. Most of it's relatively high volume. So I don't have the same sympathetic response.
Yeah.
I'm also always stemmed out like 4 to 500 milligrams of caffeine a day. So this is just my normal, sympathetic state. It's almost all the time. In general,
Interesting.
it doesn't matter all that much. I think if you do it before, though, you might be losing that swell, and that could impact shape change.
What swell exactly are you talking
So
about?
let's say you pump, any engorgement that you're carrying throughout that your tissue is going to set around, is then
Mm.
sucked back in. So you would be left with the edema that is no longer in the corpus cavernosum, so like the bad swell, not
Well,
necessarily the stuff that
yeah,
shapes the CC. Go ahead.
yeah. A point for consideration for you might be that it doesn't actually take that long to settle into your parasympathetic nervous system. I'm not certain if you're referencing like a particular event, like maybe if somebody has like a panic attack or somebody's having anxiety or something like that. But no, you can actually you can downregulate the nervous system by something like 300 to 500%. Just by coming home and kind of kicking your feet up a little bit. It's not really that intense.
I guess
There are
it
tools
comes
that we
down
measure.
to the how quickly your pelvic floor can relax afterwards.
Yeah, so that would be an interesting thing to sort of look at, because when we talk about the muscles that you've just trained, that tone is going to last a lot longer, right? Because you've got edema going on. You've just increased the basal tone of that muscle or that musculature. And so that's going to take a little bit longer for it to sort of wear away. But your pelvic floor really, if you are kind of tuned into your diaphragmatic breathing and you're breathing properly during training, I don't see a reason for your pelvic floor to necessarily be hypertonic. And so I would think that you could restore normal sort of circulation to your reproductive organs, you know, within a pretty quick amount of time.
I
Again, this is an
largely
interesting.
agree.
This
I just think there's going to be people that have a hard time shutting off.
Sure, and I like what you said, which is it's going to depend on your training. So for this guy who's a power lifter, we're going to assume that he is working in higher percentages of his 1 rep max, and so he is more central. He is more, neurologically involved in his training sessions. So I'm going to say maybe, potentially, you may have a better, according to what BD is saying, and I'm considering it as well. You may have better results going at it before, or a few hours later. But again, what he's saying and what we're saying is it depends on how quickly you can downregulate. Here's a really easy thing that you could do, though. You could try to do some why do I forget the damn name of this technique every time I come on the podcast, and I can remember it any other time in my life? It's the damn breathing exercise, the damn Andrew Huberman breathing exercise. I can never.
The
Physiological sigh is what it's called.
The double breath.
Yeah, what is? I mean, in technique, yes, it is that, but it's called a physiological sigh. So you could, and honestly, maybe for our podcast listeners, maybe all of you guys can try this, because this is something that I've been toying with and telling my coaching clients to toy with. Try doing a couple physiological sighs. Try just deep inhale all the way. And then when you get all the way to that like 90% full, you take another breath, so it looks like a double breath. It's like, and then you just kind of deflate. A cool thing that might happen if you do like 3 to 5 of those is you might start yawning. If you can get yourself to yawn from breath work, that is almost a guarantee that what you've done is you have decreased your neurological tone by hundreds of percents. And so maybe try that out.
So I think I talked about this like 2 or 3 years ago, but if you're relaxed during PE, you'll have a better response. And he's been seeing that in his coaching. He's actually just put it to a paradigm that I have not.
Yeah, you and I talked about it because I experimented with an unnamed substance at one point.
Yeah, that same thing did not work for me. It just gave me a massive migraine. So
Oh, it's crazy.
I have a very tight sinus in general. So that's
Interesting.
why I'm nasally. It's all the Neanderthal. But anyway. There's a few interesting ones here too. So, Lex, I have a question. We know there's none or a very weak correlation between size of the penis, stature, and height. Is that the same for women? So, first, it's not a no correlation, it's a weak correlation. So, it slightly trends up with height, but there is a lot more than just one gene that encodes for the penis. So, there's that. Secondly, it's probably even lower of a correlation with women.
Yeah, I imagine their penis isn't very large at all.
No. But I would assume it was closely related to like clitoral depth and placement than anything else. And that's probably actually has more to do with pelvis width.
Yeah, I was going to say, so clitoral development relies largely on the same hormones that ours do. Because, okay, so in vitro, we all start out female, right? And it's the exposure to our male sex hormones that actually begin our sexual development, which is why there is a subreddit that I am involved in because I am involved in all things sexual health related.
Grow your clit.
I am involved in Grow Your Clit. Yes, actually. So I get it. I am not like a top contributor. I'm not like a big contributor there, but I do know some things. And so I am very interested by it. But this is not going to work for guys. So don't try this because this gets brought up all the time. But they have found that topical administration of dihydrotestosterone, so topical DHT, will enlarge the clitoris potentially by hundreds of percent. They can get really, really large. And so the fact of the matter, the point that I'm, sort of fleshing out is that it's the same hormones. It's the same hormones that caused our early development. But again, in the same way as, we men, we're not really sensitive to those hormones past a certain age because we've already gotten all the development that we're going to out of that.
So I actually have a few things to refute there.
Okay.
First, DHT does not actively contribute to penis size. It contributes to testicle size. Wait, I have that backwards. So if we start from the top of puberty, right? We got LH and FSH, right? Those flow down to your testicles, and that causes a huge release of growth factors. Those growth factors then, in turn, cause upregulation of collagen production and endothelial production in the penis. Therefore, however sensitive you are to those growth factors is what's really going to cause size change. Then, in utero, correct me if I'm wrong, while you're still in the womb, the DHT exposure that you get is what controls like the baseline size on top of your genetics.
Yeah. What did I say that you didn't disagree with? Because you just said
it was
the same
specifically thing. That the DHT causes your penis to get bigger. It just doesn't happen that way.
No. What I'm saying is
okay,
in vitro.
Let me rephrase that. I was correcting what other people would interpret.
Okay. I was going to say in vitro, it is the DHT that we're exposed to.
Yes.
That causes that development. But
yeah,
because of their development, they can continue to apply it and they will actually get larger. Whereas men cannot, because we've already gotten the maximum effective. We've gotten the maximum, efficacy out of it already. By the time that you are, by the time that you are out of your womb, I mean, barring you having some kind of propensity to or predisposition to have like a micropenis, because I don't think micropenis is not an environmental thing, is it?
It's normally caused by the lack of response of FSH, I believe.
Okay.
So, like, normally it's directly correlated to the pituitary rather than the penis itself, is what I'm saying.
So the pituitary is not creating hormones.
Or they do not have the receptors to cause size change.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I need to look that up, because whether it's an output or an input would determine why. And if I thought about this for about 10 minutes, I could probably figure it out. But whether it's an output or an input would determine why that doesn't work for us as, adults.
So I'm just thinking during puberty, I had to do a lot of research on puberty lately, but inhibin is released by the testicles as they reach maturity, and then that's what slows down the release of growth factors, and that's why your penis stops growing around the same time your testicles stop growing.
Yeah.
So that's the stop. For someone who is hypogonadal throughout puberty, they never create intratesticular testosterone, therefore their penis will never grow, and that's why they see when they dose HCG, their penis will grow along with it.
Yeah. My doctor tried HCG with me really early on whenever I was diagnosed with low testosterone. And it was just one of those things that it didn't really have any magnitude of effect.
Well, your LH was probably fine then.
On my testosterone.
Yeah.
My balls, oh my God. That was another story. That was ridiculous.
Oh, they swell like crazy. Like, it is ridiculous.
Yeah, I did not.
They're such a profuse organ.
Yeah. I did not appreciate that. I already don't like. I'm not one of these guys that's like, oh, how do I get bigger balls? I'm like, no, thank you.
No.
I'm good.
I could talk about my balls for hours. Like, it's been a rabbit
I know,
hole
and that's fun, and that's fine.
Well, it's
You're
more
allowed
about.
to.
So this is a tangent. Some of you guys might think I'm crazy, but I had some form of delayed puberty. I've been on fertility hormones, and I am required to track my balls to make sure it is working. That's all I'm going to say at the moment, because I'm going to have to do like a huge, I don't want to say disposition, but kind of proof of concept, so I don't sound as crazy as I did in the one video I talked about it.
That's funny. Yep.
Let's see. You got any over there?
During the training week, J Thundercat 01 says, during the training week, are manuals done before recovery pumping? So I feel like people have mostly gotten this idea about recovery pumping. Like, I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm just saying the wrong things. If you're pumping during your training session, it's not recovery pumping.
It's active deformation.
Yes. So here's the thing. If you go in the gym and you squat on Monday, and then you do some light leg presses on Tuesday, like in the rep range of like 100 to 300 is what is supported by the literature. What you're doing is you are doing blood flow training, okay? You are actively training to engorge the muscles and saturate the tendons and the ligaments in blood. And that's important to do, as recovery work for your tendons and ligaments, because they are avascular tissues. That's why they're white on anatomical drawings. They don't have direct blood supply. So anyways, my point is, that's recovery work for your squat. That's recovery work for your leg presses, okay? If you go and you do maximum effort squats, if you go do a shit ton of squats and then you do leg presses right afterwards, that's just additional volume.
Correct.
So that's the big difference. That's the thing that I don't think that people are sort of understanding about that. So that what you're suggesting, Jay Thundercat, if you pump right after you do manuals, that's not recovery pumping. That's just more pumping, which is fine. You know, at that point, if you're doing manuals, you probably need an additional stimuli. You know, you probably need something that you can track over time, like pumping. That's probably good for you. So you don't necessarily have to stick to the guidelines that I provide when, you know, I say, okay, let's stick at 5 inches of mercury and just go for 10 minutes. So, yeah, that's my answer to that.
Speaking of volume, what I've been seeing is the amount of volume you need is a lot lower than what a lot of people have been prescribing. But there's such a stigma against low volume from 20 years of PE at this point that it's next to impossible to change the zeitgeist.
Your volume actually just dropped a lot. I don't know if you just did something.
How's that?
That's terrible. That's way worse.
What?
That's way. Stop doing whatever you're doing.
How about now?
That's like running water, dude.
Well, I do have a fish tank. So, how about
No,
now?
that's crazy. Yeah, somebody in chat said you sounded mad. I mean, where you're at right now, I guess that's
Yeah.
fine.
So, I have a DAC, and it's kind of finicky. So, are we good, everyone? I'm sorry. I'm rusty.
Your volume might still be low just relative to me.
Oh, luckily I'm the mix master.
So yeah. I've got something we can talk about because it's actually a really, really cool concept that I have been thinking about. And I would love to explore the concept with you. I am going to make a huge video on it, though. So if you steal this concept, it will fucking come to your house.
Dude, I got such a big bag to write from being out for a year that you don't got to worry about it.
So there is this thing where... So Dr. Hink basically said in one video, he was citing a rat study that was done, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that in this rat study that the best pressure that they found, or the best vacuum pressure that they found to use in the rat study was 12 inches of mercury.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen a lot of people, and this has come up a lot, and the guy, the other mod, U-Turn and I were talking about this in the comment section on one of my video posts. And so there is this idea that people have been having that just because that is sort of the ideal in a rat study,
Mm-hmm.
that they want to combine that with what we have sort of crowdsourced and found out is the, you know, best practices for extending. So basically, my bent against this
Mm-hmm.
is that there are 3 things that we have to look at in that study. Okay. Number one, you always have to address, like, does the interspecies jump? Does the concept survive the interspecies jump? Now, here's the thing. There are reasons that we do studies on rats, right? Is because to a pretty good degree, they will sort of predict what we can expect, what we can reasonably expect once we cross that interspecies bridge. But they're also just really cheap, and nobody gives a shit if we experiment on rats. So, you know, those are some very real limitations that we have to sort of consider. The other things that we have to consider: these rats have never done PE before. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so they are, for all intents and purposes, untrained. Now, what do we know about novices in almost any sport or discipline? Is that basically they can. Well, yeah, there you go. So, but no, we know that if you're just starting a diet, you're just starting a strength program, if you're just starting, you know, this, that, and the other, you're going to, in the first little span of time, you're going to have these percentages of growth and, you know, increases in proficiency that you will never see ever again. the amount of strength that you gain from the first, 3 months of training, you'll never do that ever again in training. The amounts of, like strength that you're going to gain, the amount of proficiency that you get, if you're like just starting out at golf or shooting or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Basically what I'm saying is like adaptation is front loaded, right? From a biological standpoint, we make the biggest adaptations when we are exposed to brand new stimuli.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So point number 3, they were only doing pumping in that study.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the big point, and this is where I want to hear your thoughts. When you apply maximal efficiency concepts that overlap, whether it's in a muscle, a body part, or an area of neurological efficiency, you cannot reasonably make the assumption that 100% of this plus 100% of this equals 200%. So here's my point. If all you have to use in training is a leg press and you want to make your legs bigger and stronger, you can ask ChatGPT for a leg press program and it'll come up with this program, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a squat rack in your gym and you say, oh, okay, I can squat. So you ask ChatGPT for your squat program to make your legs bigger and stronger. And then you have the squat program, right? You don't do both of those programs at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if you're going to squat and leg press, what do? You either leg press first and then squat as an accessory, or you leg press first. Shut up. I know. Either leg press.
You go
I
for
was
it.
just, in my head, I was all of a sudden, I was hearing all the people that are going to be like, oh no, what about like pre-fatiguing and shit? Shut up. This isn't the point.
Well, that's what ChatGPT would give you anyway, but go ahead.
Yeah. So again, you would either use the squat as your primary driver of growth, or you would use the leg press as your primary driver of growth. Mm-hmm. And then the other one all of a sudden turns into your assistance work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the thing that I've been seeing lately is I've been seeing a lot of people just pumping with really, really high pressures. And they're like basically pointing towards this like one study.
Mm-hmm. People like very conclusive, very safe things to do. They don't want the experimentation. So I am writing it's probably going to end up being a 6-page single-spaced video just about the perfect pump. 12 inches of mercury doesn't really make sense in general. So I'm going to just ask you, when is the penis at its biggest and largest? Like,
in general?
Yeah. So like when you go to the
right.
Okay, what I'm going to say.
Right before you have.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Right before you have an orgasm.
Okay. Now, that I guess there's a few ways that could be mechanically limited. When you go into the tube, there's going to be a point where you cannot get any bigger, right?
Right.
So going beyond that point introduces excessive stress that does not actually work the tissues, and that's what leads to excessive edema.
I think I know where you're getting at, and I'm about to be mad because I've been experimenting with this for like 3 months now. Go ahead.
You can't write about this because I already am writing about this. So that point is whenever you hit the largest you are in the pump, right as you start pumping, is your target pressure for that session. That's it. There's no.
See, this is why we're friends. This is exactly why we're friends.
So, like, technically, do not do this, but you can pump without a gauge perfectly fine if you just listen to your damn body. Go and erect, watch to the exact moment you stop engorging. That is the point you hold. That pressure is then going to be where you get tissue creep from, and that's it. That's your target pressure for the entire session. You can play around with sets, but it doesn't really matter because that's the weakest it will be. Then the next session, if you watch it, your pump will require you to use less pressure to hit the same engorgement. Why? Because you're fatiguing. And there will be a certain point where you'll hit terminal load. And what I've noticed is when I first start pumping again, it'll be like 31 kilopascals. After about a week, it drops all the way down to 18 kilopascals to reach maximum engorgement.
I'm so happy
And
for
mad.
you and pissed off at the same time. I thought I was really like coming up with something unique and like groundbreaking. So before I go on, he did not say use a pump without a gauge. He did not say that.
I'm
Do not
saying in theory
start
you
doing that.
could, but it's going to be very bad for progress tracking because like if you know the pressure you're using, you'll be able to see when you're hitting that terminal load, right? And that way, if that ever starts creeping up for whatever reason, you're probably hitting a point where you're actually developing thickness of the tunica rather than width and volume of the tunica.
Okay, what he didn't say was bath mates are cool now.
Oh no,
Okay,
no.
because bath mates are still not cool. So, yeah, dude, that's awesome that you came up with that all on your own. You're so smart.
Thank you, thank you.
So, yeah, I was actually, fuck you. I've been doing the same thing. That's crazy. So, yeah, okay. I think I told you this. I finally bought like an LA pump because I just wanted to see what they were like because they're, supposedly like these really nice pump. I also just wanted I like the reactivity that I get from having a shorter
Oh, okay. So
cylinder.
you actually got a
You
custom,
know what I mean?
yeah, set up
Right. So
custom.
I got one that's 10 inches. I didn't want the one that's this, freaking 12 inches. So I um took basically I had it like, like laser engraved to have the actual millimeters laid out on the thing. And
You and your engineer must have some weird things going on.
dude, listen, we're just open-minded, progressive people pushing the penis, industry. um, so yeah, basically like to the millimeter, exactly what you're saying. Like I would watch and I would basically just like not even look at the pump pressure that I had in my hand. And I would do exactly what you said, which is just continue to pump up until you literally see it stop. And I would notice the pressure that I was at. And I was like, okay, this is actually like very, very close to what I have been doing my entire like PE career. So yeah, the longer that I go about it, the more that, but for me, it's by session even. So that's the thing is that I don't need to maintain a certain pressure throughout the entire session. But I mean, that's a concept that I experimented with, years ago, even with whenever you were refining your interval training program.
So like
Was
half
that
a decade ago.
well, yeah, no. So remember, I don't remember if I don't know if you remember the specific paper that you showed me, but the specific paper basically showed that after cyclical loading, that like you
After
would
10 to
basically
15
fatigue.
sets, it's at the weakest point.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, and you wouldn't need the same amount of weight to achieve the same amount of elongation.
Correct.
So for me, you know, well, I'm just thinking of all the DMs that I'm going to get. So I'm like trying to shut the fuck up and not say certain recommendations or prescriptive things. But I personally would use one weight for fatigue sets and the other for strain sets because I just found that it was easy enough to go down and maintain the same level of elongation.
I would
And so
do that
that went
kind of
along with,
intuitively, by the way. It was just like as my glands got a little bitey, I'd lower the pressure.
I'm sorry, say that again.
So I would do that intuitively. I'd start,
Yeah,
well, really it'd be a ramp up and ramp down, but
yeah.
the same principles apply. I have a super chat over here, so thank you. So let me get to that. Realistic manual length routine and expected gains after 5 months. Love you all, by the way. That is from Sham God, so that's a basketball move you didn't know. Um, but so I have a length routine literally on Reddit, step by step. It's pinned. That's what I would recommend. There's a bit of talk about not wanting to do semi-rec bends. I think it's overstated, but if you are worried about it, don't do them. But regardless, it's going to take you about 20 to 35 minutes as you progress to do it. In 5 months is a loaded question because I can't tell you how fast your tissue is going to respond. I don't know how bad your erection quality is to begin with. But I've seen people gain as little as 1/8 of an inch in 5 months, and I've seen people gain upwards of an inch in 5 months. So, split the
Yeah.
difference, half an inch. That's going to be probably the average response in 5 months. And it also depends how big you are to start. So like if you're 8 inches, they'll probably it's probably going to be about 10% more length in about the first 5 to 6 months. So 8 inches is going to be like 8.8, and then if you're 5 inches, it's going to be 5.5, and that's just math.
Yeah, it's really not beneficial to sort of ask or even entertain those questions.
He paid me though, so.
No. I'm not saying don't acknowledge that. I'm not saying don't acknowledge that. I'm saying that to what was his name?
Sham God.
All right. So Sham God, what we need to expound on for your benefit is just that there are so many variables that go into this that we have no concrete way of giving you a satisfying answer. And that sucks. And that sucks for us because we want to be able to give you exact answers that are fulfilling, that you like to hear, that are encouraging, and that you hop off here and you're like, oh man, I'm really grateful and glad that I just super chatted that guy because I got the exact answer to my question. And now I'm gonna go and put my Apex extender on and get huge. And yeah, it's just not satisfying. It's one of those things where it really does. It sucks. But to expand on that, like just a little bit, like what I tell people all the time is like, if somebody gives you what BD and I are trying to do is we're trying to be honest. We're trying to be very real with you, and we're trying to set your expectations to the point where we can back them up. And so that's the thing is that if anybody gives you any kind of answer other than it depends for a question like that, they don't really care about you. They're just saying something to get you off their ass. So if somebody says you can gain this much in this amount of time, they're full of shit. They're more than likely wrong.
And
And they're just kind of talking out of their ends.
Yeah. I'm trying to sell you an
Yeah,
ebook too.
they're trying to get you to sub to their penis only fans or something.
So I got another super chat. Please stop that, guys. I appreciate it, but I don't need your money. If you want to support us, peakmelphysique.com, massivenovelties.com. But I know you want your answers or your questions
Bro,
answered.
sub to my YouTube. Fuck Massive Novelties. I need followers like a
this
motherfucker.
Is my chat, so anyway.
Yeah, I know.
What is the best routine for girth gains? Guys, we just talked about this. I do 2 days of pumping with either recovery training, and before pump I do length work. Okay, so again, this is a huge debate. First, try the new pumping protocol. I don't know what I'm calling it yet. Pump until you hit
apologize,
maximal
BD, but
engorgement.
Can you repeat the question for me? I was having a bit of difficulty hearing you, and I'm sure everybody else did.
Rude.
You're fine. No. Don't do that.
What is the best routine for girth gains? I do 2 days
That's
of
worse.
pumping. What the fuck is going on?
That's worse. Put it back.
Here, give me a second.
Anyways, thank God that motherfucker is off the screen now. Guys, I literally cannot stand him. I swear. Like, it's not that he looks better than me. He does look better than me. I'll be honest. He is younger. He's less fat than I am. Look at all the hair that he has. I'm jealous. Of course I'm jealous. And his dick is huge. But he is a fucking dickhole and a half. I don't know if you guy is just insufferable. I was just telling them what a freaking sweet guy you were.
Yeah, sure. I am a douchebag, and most people in the space will tell me that.
Oh, you don't have any sound. He's gonna crash out. He's crashing out, guys. You're not allowed to do that on YouTube. You're getting me demonetized. Killing me.
No, of course not.
Still can't hear you.
Can you guys hear me? It looks like my chat can hear me, so give me a second. How about now?
Yeah.
All right. Now, I'm assuming chat still could hear me because it was picking up on OBS. But can you all hear me fine now?
You're going to have to go back and watch that part again because that was real good.
Okay, if I remember. What is the best routine for girth gains? I do 2 days of pumping, either recovery or recovery and training. And before pump, I do length work. So I'm
So
assuming,
he's looking for girth gains.
yeah.
So I've had a lot of my guys doing lots of bundled extending for girth gains, and it's working.
Disgusting.
I don't give a shit. So, I basically treat the extending portion of the training session as almost a pre-fatiguing.
I'm going to be right back. You continue talking, though.
Okay. So, yeah, I treat the timing extender as sort of a pre-fatiguing portion of their training session. And I'll have my guys do bundled extending, and they will bundle for, like I would say 70 to 80% of the weight that they would normally use, like if they were doing length specific work. And the bundling doesn't actually need to be that much. 180 degrees of a turn is enough. You'll get really, really great expansion from going in bundling and then going into the pump. You'll actually get really, really great expansion by doing that, just because what you've done is you have twisted the penis across itself, and so you've actually forced some of this like mechanical, cross linking to fail. And so yeah, you'll get a lot better results doing that. And so whether you want to do pumping afterwards or you want to do clamping or base holds, whatever your preference is, I don't have a problem with a multidisciplinary approach to it. I feel like there are applications for clamping and soft clamping alongside those, alongside pumping and extending. The main thing to note, though, is that clamping is really, really hard on your tissues, and so you need to watch your erection quality very, very closely to make sure that you are not overtraining, because that can happen extremely, extremely quick when you're trying to do girth work.
Okay, chat, let me know if you can hear me. I'm using the same microphone, just double time. So anyway.
Well, I can hear you now.
It's a loud buzzing sound. Fuck me. I give up.
But it doesn't even sound like that microphone you had on was working, because
yeah, so I connected this one just to my camera, and since I'm charging it, it is buzzing. Gotta love Rode. Okay, we are just back to the same microphone for both, and I think that's actually the issue. Anyway, so I'm assuming you said clamping's bad.
No, I didn't actually say clamping is bad. No, because I've kind of come full circle on that. I really don't think that I'm at a point where I can say that it's bad in terms of practice. I think that I think that my issue with clamping is that of proper technique and execution and placement within a routine. I don't necessarily think that it's something that we need to wholeheartedly just demonize and excommunicate from the Church of PE. I think that it's still a valuable tool. I think that it just needs to be revisited by a lot of people who, well, here's the thing. A lot of people have clamped and just not gotten good results. And that's the truth. And so we need to sort of look at why that is. And I think that it's because girth work is so much more difficult than length work, because you can overtrain like that. So I just think that it's like too much on the tissues, to be quite honest.
I'm just trying to think. So, clamping to me
Yep.
is only good for hypoxia. You
Hmm.
might be able to get super engorgement, but I'm not exactly sure if it's going to correlate like a pump would. I think that people that suffered or gained a lot of clamping had a lot of space in the tunica to fill, and once they've reached that maximal expansion, they stopped gaining length or stopped gaining girth.
Yeah.
So the most prolific person I know that gained with clamping predominantly gained length because he was doing length along with clamping, and I don't think he really put on that much girth in comparison.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Interesting. I mean, for what it's worth, I don't currently prescribe it to any of my PE clients because, again, I think that I think again it needs to be sort of revisited as a potentially advanced technique that needs to be very, very critically thought about where it is in your routine and the role that it plays. But yeah, I've got a question over here, and uh, so Sakbo L1T asks, "What's the difference between perv pumping and feeder sets?"
oh, I have that one too.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Well,
There's no difference.
there's not a difference except the perv pumping. Um, so I mean, the funny thing about it is that like I don't know if you remember this or not because I actually went back and looked it up. I think I showed you where we went back and looked it up, like the actual text message conversation that you and I had about it, where I was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, I've been doing this thing," and you were like, "Oh, so like feeder sets," and that was back in the day when I sucked at doing YouTube, and I would like talk to Beatty about something, and I'd be like, "Hey, I have this cool idea, but like I've been doing it for a few weeks now, and I'm gonna like keep it under wraps and not tell anybody about it." And then like the next morning, I'd wake up and there'd be a YouTube video about it, and I'd be like, "Son of a fucking bitch!" And now
That's not
everybody's like, "Yeah."
100% accurate, but it's close enough to the truth.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that close. I just really sucked at, you know, putting my ideas out there. And so I actually relied on Beatty to disperse some of the information just because he was just a better source of, condensing it and getting it out there. I didn't really have a voice in the community. So I was kind of like, hey, I'm doing this stupid shit. And I don't really think that anybody gives a fuck what I'm doing. But, if you think it's an okay idea, then I'm sure they'll listen to you. So no, I am villainizing BD, but no. So the conversation that we actually had was that I had been doing these perv pumping and recovery pumping things, and BD said, "Oh, so like feeder sets." BD then started to popularize the idea of feeder sets, and so really the difference was terminology, but specifically when people talk about perv pumping, it is the protocol that I recommend of 10 total minutes of 2 5-minute sets with just a couple seconds in between. 2 times a day on off days, once a day on training days, 8 to 12 hours before your training session. And this is important. It is always at 5 inches of mercury. Now, why is that important? Why is 5 inches of mercury and 10 total minutes perv pumping? And why is it not a feeder set? And what is a feeder set? Well, if you draw a Venn diagram of all the studies that we have on pumping, which in clinic, it's called a vacuum erection device. So if you study vacuum erection devices, if you draw a Venn diagram of all the studies that we have, basically in the dead middle of it, so the one sort of parameter in terms of pressure and time that almost every study can agree on that is beneficial is 10 total minutes at 5 inches of mercury. So what I'm recommending is the minimum effective dose that is observed by the most amount of studies. And most of the research that we have on pumping actually support it as a medical rehabilitation tool, not actually a growth tool. So am I telling people don't use pumps for growing? No, it's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying if your goal is length, there are way better tools out there now. You don't have to use a pump. And then all of a sudden, if you think about what these devices do, well, can I use an extender for recovery? No, not really. So you use you use an extender for length or you use hanging for length, and then you use a pump for recovery, because nothing can supply you with blood flow and potential recovery, like a pump can. And then nothing is really going to. Yeah. No, it's good. It's good that you mentioned that. Actually, that was a point that was brought up in my last video. Somebody asked if they could edge. But I do actually mention that in the video that I made where I said pumping sucks for length. I do actually mention that right off the bat, that my priority with my clients is that you get multiple strong erections throughout the day. And if you're not getting multiple strong erections throughout the day, that's the first thing you need to work on, not perv pumping.
Sorry, I'm unpacking that. So, recovery. First, edging. I don't think you actually should edge. It can lead to pelvic floor strain, like fatigue, just in general. Secondly,
I think that's one of those things that's, again, like, we need to revisit and make it clear that there's a technique difference, right? Like, people that are prone to...
the only difference between what you said about perv pumping and, I guess, feeder sets is that I just say 70% of your working pressure.
Yeah, because I don't think that it necessarily should increase, because in terms of respecting our body's mean, blood pressure, that's not going to change. So if we are looking for supplying the penis with oxygen-rich blood, we don't need to progress over time like somebody may if they're using a pump. We're not looking for tissue deformation. We're not looking for additional tissue strain. In fact, the more advanced that we get, the more stress and strain that we're putting on our penis. So probably it's even better that we stay at a consistent and low pressure, because our volume is just creeping up and up and up and up and up so much that we probably don't want something, adding to it, even in a little bit.
Yeah, so the only reason why I said 70% of working pressure is because there's variance in natural blood pressure. So I'm not against you on the 5 inches of mercury. I just like to pontificate.
Yeah, and I'm not married. I'm not married to the idea. I'm just saying, if you think about the reference range, if you think about the range that we studied, so why is it 5 to 7 inches of mercury? Well, it's because of what our cardiovascular system can put in terms of pressure into our penis, right? So he studied an average subset of people, so you are going to have that, spread of average blood pressures, and so again, I just make that recommendation in terms of minimum effective dose and safest widely recommendable dose, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So back to your maximum erections for growth. I believe there is an avenue where you can fatigue the tissue so much that your natural erections will actually cause you to deform over time. So, for example, let's say you pump before bed. You already have a distal swell. You fatigue the tissue to, let's say, it reaches full engorgement at 12 kilopascals. Just, random ass number. If your natural erections at night hit 15 kilopascals, you're technically deforming the tissue. So what I'm saying is, if you time your PE to the time you go to bed, you can maximize nocturnal erections and get basically super physiological erection. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Super physiological erection practically all night.
Yeah, potentially. I don't disagree with that in thought. In practice, I think it may be difficult. Again, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it will be difficult, and the consideration that people will need to make is that they will have to optimize their training so that they absolutely are maintaining peak erection quality. Because if you are overtraining even in the slightest bit and you decrease that maximum erection quality, then you're eating into those nocturnal erections, like BD was saying. So you may not get that added benefit of it. So, yeah, I don't disagree with that. Again, in theory, in practice, I think that's probably that's a lot. There are a lot of
skill.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I'm kind of like I'm vibing on like the dumbass PE side of things recently. Like I'm just like, what can I recommend that people aren't gonna fuck up, and what's like gonna really give us the most bang for our buck and just the biggest return on investment. So so that's me lately, and I just think that again, that's actually one of the reasons that I recommend perf pumping the way that I do. So 5 inches of mercury, 10 total minutes, is because it's like, you're not going to fuck that up. Like, there are some real smooth brain people out here. But so long as you, I don't even care how high your volume is. If your volume is so high that 2 10-minute sets on an off day is going to fuck you up, then I don't know. I
feel like there's
I don't know.
underlying issues at that point.
Yeah, you're right. That's what I'm getting at is like, pumping for 20 total minutes is not your issue. So yeah. Oh man. I had to oh gosh, let me answer this question, okay? Because I don't want this to. So flying high, flying high. I1X said something feels off. Is everything good? You guys seem aggro. Like, bro, I came in vibe and it feels like Perv is saying something. LOL. Is something wrong? No, not at all. I was picking on BD because he was off of the microphone, so I was just talking shit about him. It was a joke. It's a meme, guys.
Yeah, I'm too tired to care if you were making fun of me. So
people always want me to fight with people, though. For real, they'll be making shit up about me fighting with everybody except for the people that I'm fighting with.
It's because you're bald.
It's so funny. People point that out like it's just like the freaking the thing that's gonna be like, like, oh, I'm bald. Oh my god, am I really bald?
I don't know. I have that resting bitch face. So,
dude, I'm getting Botox tomorrow.
Yeah.
You see this shit? You can't actually, because I'm really well lit right now. But I'm getting Botox tomorrow. I'm sick of this shit. I look mean and unapproachable, and I'm not that guy. But like when I'm out in public and shit, like I look like I'm like mean mugging motherfuckers. And it's the only feature about my face that I can identify from like other pictures that I'm like, oh, my face is aging. Like I'm looking older. It's like this one thing, this fucking like the crease of just judgment.
Crease of judgment.
That's all it is, man. That's like I got this one thing. So my girlfriend, she's going to get Botox, and I was like, yo, tell your doctor we need like an extra like 10 minutes. I was like, just have her like put some shit in there. So we're gonna see.
Yeah, I would rather not be approached in public. So the angrier, the better.
Isn't there some kind of like? Isn't there a PE application for Botox or something like that?
I think it's called.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah.
I've heard that, and I heard that some people get better erections from it. I think it's stupid to put botulism next to your junk. So.
That's funny.
That's what it is.
Oh, there's a bunch of people. Man, my YouTube must have lagged because like I came back and I had all these new chats and stuff. So like Yes, I was clearly joking, guys.
Yeah, it'd be pretty egregious to make fun of me on the stream that I'm hosting for
On
both
the
of us.
stream
Yeah.
that we can just go and watch back later. Like, um, but no, I'm not. I'm not beefing with anybody. I was mogging,
I don't even know what mogging means.
but yeah. What's that?
I don't even know what mogging means.
Dude, you're younger than me.
Yeah, but I'm not terminally online.
All right, so um, where? Let me look real quick. Perv got a Humpty Dumpty head. Yeah, I mean, I do. You know, it's in there. It's doing its thing. You know what though? I'm really glad. Like when I first decided to shave my head, I was like really glad that I didn't shave it and like I didn't have like a fucked up dome. Like it's kind of aesthetic. Like I like it. I'm like okay, like I have a good head for like being bald. Because there are some people that shave their head and their shit is not good.
Oh,
You know.
So I got like 2 horns right here. So.
But like the way that your hair is, bro, you're gonna have hair forever.
I mean, let's hope.
You know. I feel like
it matches my dad's hairline, so and he's like 60
Yeah.
something. But I'm not. If I go bald, I go bald. It's whatever.
That's funny. Didn't I send you? I sent you that picture like the other day that I was just like see proof that I could still grow my hair out. I was just like, I just don't like it, and that's the thing that I don't think that a lot of people realize. Is I'm like, I can grow my hair out. I tried to, like 2 years ago, or maybe it was like a year ago. I tried it for Amber because Amber was like, you know, why don't you just try and like grow your hair out? I was like everywhere, like beard and hair and everything, and I did it. And she hated it. And I, you know, when she was like, okay, you can shave it off, I was like, thank you. Thank God. I was like, I have been shaving my head. I have been shaving my head for so long that I just like I don't want it. Don't want it anymore.
Bald's nice, but for me, it becomes a helmet really fast. So.
Becomes a what?
It becomes a helmet. So it just puffs out.
Oh, yeah.
So
I get what you're saying.
I'm trying to grow it back out to at least here. But we'll see.
Makes sense. So somebody asked, isn't it a parasitic fungus?
Botox.
Yeah, so botulism.
It's a toxin from.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
So botulism. Fun fact. Botulism, when it is weaponized, is the most toxic thing on the face of the planet. So for those of you who don't know, I used to be a medic. And as part of being a medic, you go through hazmat training. So I actually did extensive hazmat training. I was on the hazmat team for my county. And so I got to do a lot of really cool stuff. Like I actually got to suit up several occasions when there were like, we called them like code greens, but it's basically biohazardous events. And, you know, they actually happen a lot more than you would think. You know, I lived in Camden, South Carolina at that point in time. Camden, South Carolina, there's a lot of farms around, and farms have a lot of toxic shit on hand just around. And so a lot of times you'll get spills, you'll get animals that'll get into it. You know, you get farmers that aren't handling it correctly, and you have to send a hazmat team out. Anyways, point is, I took extensive hazmat training, and we learned basically everything. It's like the glycemic index. BD, I don't know if you know this or not, but like it's like the glycemic index. Everything is based off of a 100. 100 is like white bread, right? Well, 100 is chlorine gas on a hazmat. Okay. So if 100 is chlorine gas, then a 1000 is like sarin, sarin gas. And then you get up to like a 10,000, which I think is the shit. What was that? It went off in China like years and years and years ago. I can't even remember. Anyways, VX gas. VX gas is one that we know from like the Eastern Bloc, and VX gas is a 1 million. So the thing is, weaponized botulinum toxin is so freaking toxic. It is actually in the billions. If you had a way to distribute it evenly, 1 pound of weaponized botulinum toxin could kill every mammal on the planet. So literally every man, woman, child, and mammal. That's how toxic that shit is. But it's not the same thing that you put in your face.
Good to know, but I'm still probably not ever doing Botox. Real quick. First, hey, Bezo. First, BD, you still recommend taking off oh my god. BD, do you still recommend taking off every 4 to 6 weeks, the deload cycles? I would say yes, still. But it really is dependent if you're actually tracking fatigue or not. If you're not getting the slow creep towards your post-flaccid, getting closer to your pre-stretch flaccid, then you don't need to. But in general, it's about 4 to 8 weeks depending on total volume.
Yeah. I've actually just been going based off of looking at overall volume and when it starts to sort of decrease, like when fatigue just starts to decrease. I really am sort of at this point where what I've tracked with like 40 guys at this point is if your training is optimal, I really think you can just kind of continuously go at it. I think that if you have adequate recovery, and I think if you have most all of your bases covered in terms of sleep, hormones, nutrition, I don't necessarily think that you need to take time completely off. That is my observation from coaching. And again, there are differences in application in almost everything. And this is sort of this is an overarching theme that I've been talking about lately, BD, and it's sort of like there is room for interpretation of the correct application or the optimal application of PE, right? Because that's the thing, is that the way that I got my 900-pound squat is not the way that all 900-pound squats have been gotten. There have been people who trained nothing like me and got a 900-pound squat. Okay. So the fact of the matter is, the simplest way to say it is there's more than one way to skin a cat. What the fact of the matter is that the way that I trained respected the laws of science, the laws of biology, the laws of biomechanics, and the way that they trained. If they got the same result, if they got the same result or better, they respected all the same biological and physical laws. You can't bypass those. I mean, the law is the universe is made on finite, unbreakable laws, and the way that the human body works is based on absolutes. There's no real room for interpretation, even though we are still discovering how it works, and so there's room for speculation on mechanisms and stuff like that. But it's not one of these things where like Hink is right and I'm wrong, or BD's right and I'm wrong, or anything like that. It's like there exists simultaneously correct approaches to things, even if they sometimes seem like they're diametrically opposed. And what I've been using to explain this concept to people, BD, is like the research that shows that 5 sets of 5 builds just as much muscle as 4 sets of 20. So it's a question of application, not of science. It's a question of practice, not a question of science. And so that's the thing, is that both 5 sets of 5 and 4 sets of 20 both respect these unbreakable laws of physics and anatomy and physiology.
So the problem, though, is that there's still debate on what the laws of PE are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I think one of the things that needs to be kind of looked at is like, are both of these protocols still observing? Basically, because, okay, there's a lot of people that want to debate. Is it that you don't need any rest? Is it that you need moderate rest? Is that you need a lot of rest? And the fact of the matter is that there are people who have gained with every iteration of that. So I'm not trying to necessarily say that my way is best or my way is right. What I am saying is, according to the data that I have read and the science that I understand, these principles do not fly in the face of anything that I have seen that is known by science.
So, first pushback about not having any breaks is there will be a point where the receptors of growth factors dull out. And that's where you'll really plateau first. And that's why you need a break.
So here's the issue with that, though, is that we run into an inability to quantify stimulus and equate that from, say, high rep, low weight, kind of program, like the PE equivalent of whatever doing like high rep, low weight would be. And then up here we have high weight, low rep. With PE, there exists not exactly the easiest way to quantify total volume.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in the gym,
Okay,
we can say sets times reps equals volume, right? In PE, it's a lot more difficult. You can't necessarily say 5 sets of 10 equals a volume of 50. You know what I mean? And so here's the real rub of the situation is that, like, yes, given a particular stimulus over time, you will desensitize the tissues if they do not have sufficient rest. But the question is, what threshold do you have to pass over in order to need a similar amount of rest? So that's what I'm saying is if you give a 100%, we'll come up with an arbitrary system of measuring stress and recovery. So we'll say if you train at a 100, then you immediately need a 100 in rest, right? Mm-hmm. So then if you train over here and you train 100, 100, 100, then all of a sudden you need 300 in a row of rest, right? Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is I believe that in training, in physical training, strength training, conditioning, that the same sort of idea applies where you can continuously train and have rest periods intermittently for those receptors to, reset.
But from my understanding of soft tissue is that those are safeguards in place for runaway growth. So that chronic stimulus will eventually cause downregulation, regardless of it, because it's more attuned to the growth rather than the stress.
Right. The argument that I'm making is we don't actually know where those thresholds are.
Yeah, I get that. But what I'm saying is like if your veins slow down, regardless if you're hitting fatigue or not, it's probably because you're adapted to that amount of growth factor release at that interval. Therefore, you need to take time off.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not arguing with that. I think that's a very reasonable statement. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is
and then when I say 4 to 6 weeks, that is the typical time range someone can expect to hit this first wall, and then they need to deload.
Given a particular amount of stimulus that you have in mind. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's what I'm saying is that we don't have a way of quantifying. We can't say when you've lifted 10,000 pounds, of total volume, then you need X amount of rest or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying your recommendation is based off of a typical way of training that you are prescribing to people, or that you are observing people
I'm going
do.
to push
Correct?
back on that more.
Okay.
I say if you hit less than 2% fatigue after a session, therefore you need rest. Therefore, we have a way to quantify overall cumulative fatigue.
Or you need to increase the training stimulus, correct?
Yeah, but that's usually counterintuitive.
Yeah. No, again, I don't disagree with you. I just think that it's really difficult to apply actual concrete parameters on something that's so kind of nebulous that we don't really have a way of like saying for a fact that because kind of what I've been gravitating towards and what I've actually been promoting, watch, this is going to end up like a meme or some shit that I'm going to hear about. What I've actually been promoting is kind of almost like a Bulgarian method of penis enlargement. I'm like, okay, let's do something every 12 hours for your penis, whether it's training or recovery. Let's do something, to keep this going. And so what's really funny is people are like nailing me with this, like, oh, Perv says you need rest days. And I'm like, I didn't say that. What I said is you need recovery. I didn't say you need rest days.
Most of my
There's a
work
big
says
difference between
recovery now too, by the way.
there's a big difference between rest and recovery. Okay, because sitting on your ass does not equal recovery. Not necessarily.
Right.
So anyways, though, I did want to talk to you about that. So I'm glad we had this podcast because I did want to hear your thoughts on that. And I do think it's interesting. And we also have like the most simultaneous viewers that I think I've ever seen on this channel. We have 188 people watching right now.
On your side, I have 26.
So we've got 189 people at least watching.
Oh. That's whatever.
We've got at least. All right. I got some people. Hold on just a second. Forsaken Dog, I've scrolled back and I can't see your question. So like put it in again and I'll try and like talk to you about what's going on.
I'm gonna pee. You go ahead.
All right. Yeah, my tablet is just I'm sorry guys, my tablet is like not, it's just not keeping up with the chat. So I apologize. Let me see what's happening. Okay. What's up, guys? I misunderstood something and did sets of Kegels in the pump. Have hard flaccid since close to a year. Can you help? Damn, dude. Okay. Yeah, that's a shitty situation to be in. I'm sorry to hear that, brother. That sucks. Some guys are just so prone to getting hard flaccid, and it seems like one of these things that has to do with like systemic tone. I've actually noticed it kind of has to do with like your general vibe as a person and how flexible you tend to be in training and in life. And I don't mean that in a hippy dippy way. I mean that there are literally correlations between like your mannerisms and where you exist on a sympathetic, versus parasympathetic. So like chill people, people that are a little bit more like, whatever, like surf the wave, bruh. They tend to be a little bit more in their parasympathetic nervous system. So they're a little bit more rest, digest, recover. Whereas people who are a little bit more high stress, they're a little bit more, just like aggro and shit. They are a little bit more into their, sympathetic nervous system tone. And so they typically have a higher resting tonus for muscles. And I've noticed that people like that can strain their muscles, not just in the pelvic floor, but in general, a lot easier. So So what to do about your specific case? BD actually has a lot of really great videos that I have referred plenty of people to on that topic. We're talking about
Nonsense.
pelvic floor. We're talking about pelvic floor stuff. So yeah,
Definitely
I
not a
would
pelvic floor
honestly.
expert, dude, but go ahead.
No, I mean I'm not saying that, but I really do. I really do think that some of the videos that you made are very helpful. I've referred tons and tons of people to your videos. And so I think that's a good place to start. Now, if you know anything about me, you know that I am the breathing guy. I think that, our respiration determines just so much about us as human beings. And so again, what I was talking about earlier, like your sort of propensity to be sort of an aggro guy or a chill guy, it directly correlates with your level of involvement of your sympathetic nervous system. It means you're like up here, or your parasympathetic nervous system. And that's kind of the like ride the wave, dude. And so I do believe that a holistic approach to this is necessary. I do believe that you need to sort of look at the ability that you have to downregulate. So this is a macro, this is not, we're not to a like specific thing yet. We're just saying macro in general. You need to learn to uh, chill the fuck out. And I don't mean that passively. I mean actively. You need to learn how to chill out. You actively need to learn how to downregulate your central nervous system. And the easiest way to do that is through breathing. So breathing, sleep, sex, meditation, those are the biggest things that you can do to really bring your sympathetic nervous system under control and then exist at, just a better sort of more even keel. So that's going to prevent you from, or it will lower your likelihood of, straining yourself in the future. Now, as far as what to do for right now, pelvic floor exercises can definitely help. Breathing exercises will also definitely help because your pelvic floor is part of a contiguous system that starts at your diaphragm. Your diaphragm goes across the entire bottom, of your ribs. It goes down your low back, flows into the hip flexors, which go down through your pelvis and into your femurs. And then, all of your pelvic floor musculature sits right there on the bottom. So you got this big C shape. You've got your diaphragm, your low back, and your pelvic floor. All of that moves and massages your tissues every single time that you breathe. So I recommend you watch some of BD's videos on the subject. That is a big thing that I would recommend. Since BD is chewing right now, I'll go ahead and answer this other question because
That's okay. I'm a slob.
somebody asked, they said, "Perv, what was your diet when you were doing powerlifting?" And they asked it 3 times now. So, it's actually a really easy diet to explain. BD is actually aware of the person that I took my dietary advice from. He's actually a man that I got to know somewhat personally. His name is Stan Efferding. Stan Efferding authored a book called The Vertical Diet. And The Vertical Diet is a book that I highly recommend that everybody read. The reason that I like The Vertical Diet is because, like, I hope to be like the Stan Efferding of PE one day. And that is like, Stan Efferding doesn't preach like hard, fast, you have to do this kind of things. What he gives you is he gives you a functional framework of how to eat. And then he lets you figure out the best actual diet for you by teaching you these fundamentals of performance nutrition. So specifically, what was I eating? I was eating about 3.5 pounds of animal protein per day. I was eating a lot of rice, specifically jasmine rice. I was eating bone broth mixed into every meal. I was using like a lean ground beef. I was using bone broth, jasmine rice. I was having peppers, mixing spinach into it. I was waking up first thing in the morning and getting cranberry juice in for iodine. Use colorful peppers for micronutrients. Almonds are really good for your dietary fats. And then twice a week, I would have salmon for your omega-3s. So one of the big things about the vertical diet, and one of the things that I promote, is you should eat your nutrients. You should eat you should eat to the point where you don't really need supplements. Just because, if you eat a piece of salmon, the omega-3s and the omega-6s are actually balanced, and omega-3s and 6s need to be in a ratio of each other. You can't just supplement with one. And so just eating salmon is a really quick answer to like, how do you get all your omega fatty acids in your diet, right? So eat salmon twice a week, you'll hit your recommended, a weekly amount with 2 servings, and in the correct ratios. But eggs are also a huge thing. Eggs and milk, if you can tolerate them, are fantastic for you. Eggs are one of the greatest sources of choline for you. And of course, if you can, get in cheeses, multiple studies and meta-analysis have shown that people that include dairy in their regular diet have more favorable body composition. We've eaten dairy for as long as we've been around animals, so it's something that's really, really good for us. It's been in our diet for forever. So
breast milk.
So that was my diet. Yeah.
So
You know what you want to know a fun fact, Beatty? Do you know what the oldest piece of pottery? You know what the oldest piece of pottery was actually found to be used for? It was actually used to make cheese.
I could see it.
Yeah, and so we've actually been eating cheese for a really long time as humans, because the thing is, lactose persistency. You understand this concept, right? You know that lactose persistency. So, like those of us who can actually drink milk, we're the ones that have a genetic mutation.
Yeah, we're the
not
weird
the people
ones.
not the people that. So the people that are lactose intolerant, it's like you're normal. You're not supposed to be able to drink milk into your adulthood. So lactase persistency is a genetic mutation where we produce the lactase enzyme on into adulthood, and it's actually going up. The instance of lactase persistency is increasing, to the point where we can track it. Like even just over the past 100 years, it's gotten basically in another 100 years, nobody will be lactose intolerant if we keep going at the rate that we are. But yeah, humans would have found out really early on that like milk, we couldn't really drink milk outside of adolescence, and so it's like, what's a way that you turn this into a viable calorie source for humans without pissing off your gut? And it's like, well, you turn it into cheese. So the oldest piece of human pottery had residue of the bacteria that was used for making cheese.
Interesting.
Fun fact about the human diet.
Right. So what does that have to do with PE?
Oh, because, dude, everything that we eat is literally the constituent components of everything that goes into your penis. And so that's the whole thing, is like, I absolutely think that we need to have a bigger bent in this community about, understanding and prioritizing the raw materials that we need to do PE, because I'm actually starting to really, really rethink. And I think I'm already at a sort of conclusion to where a lot of people have asked me over the years, like, do I need to be in a caloric surplus for PE, or can I do PE when I'm in a calorie deficit? That's a huge question. And really, honestly, especially lately, just looking at the data on how our tissues recover, I think that you're honestly way better off doing PE if you're in a caloric surplus. I really do think that you are going to be truly, okay, I don't think it's arguable that like you are truly going to be maximizing your body's recovery capacity if you are, even in just a slight surplus, right? At maintenance, it's arguable, especially because our soft tissues are such a high priority for our body to recover, right? But yeah, I'm just really starting to rethink the whole notion of like PE in a calorie deficit, because I just don't think that the penis constitutes a high priority tissue for our body.
So I was called crazy because I was eating high carb. Like it was excessively high carb, but I was called crazy. So
Let's be clear, you
good
are
luck.
fucking crazy,
I
but not
am.
because of that.
I have rationality behind this, but point being
So-
is there is probably a diet that's very good for erectile function, and it's going to be very case to case dependent, but it's probably going to have ample nutrients and ample energy in it.
Yeah, I think it might have just messed up the stream.
What'd you do?
I don't know.
I mean, we're still on
I
my
just
side.
I just navigated out of the.
You didn't hit end stream, so
Oh, ha! It's still going. It's actually still
Mhm.
playing.
I figured.
So yeah, I do just. I don't think it's. I don't think it's an arguable point, BD. I don't think it's an arguable point that
So my
we.
problem with dieting in general is it's so fucking dogmatic. Like, because the way you can think about it psychologically, like keto bros, right? This is the first diet they ever lost weight on. Therefore, it is God's gift, and if you say anything bad about it, you're actively attacking their identity.
What did you call it? What is? What did you?
It's so psychologically speaking,
No.
keto,
What was the first diet?
keto.
Keto. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so these people latch on to.
You're talking about ancestrally, like the
No, I
first
am
way of eating.
talking about people online struggling to lose weight. They start
Okay.
keto. That's the first time they've ever been in a calorie deficit in their life because they've been so,
Okay.
you know.
Right. Okay.
And
Yes.
then, therefore, any other diet is wrong. Keto is the word of God.
Right. The data that I would point people towards is just that there have been multi-system. I mean, there have been
Okay,
like
so,
crazy meta-analysis. Yeah. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I get that. But the problem is their identity does not allow them to accept the fact that keto is not necessarily perfect for everyone. And I'm not saying every keto guy's like this, but a very large portion of that community is like that.
I understand. Yeah. I I get what you're saying,
Yeah.
and I agree. There are going to be some people that listen, and there are going to be some people that just aren't going to.
Yeah. I mean, it's
About
the same
about
thing about
everything.
carnivore and vegan.
Precisely, and that's the thing is that I really just try to simply point people towards the data that like I feel it is liberating that we've actually found through comparison studies and through multidisciplinary sort of meta-analysis that when you account for protein and you put people in a calorie deficit across the board, losing fat makes you healthier.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't actually make you healthier if you're eating carnivore or vegan or vegetarian or if it fits your macros. So literally, if you are shoving ice cream cookies in your mouth every single day and you're still losing weight, it is not deniable. It is clinically proven that
So,
you are going to be healthier for it.
minor pushback. If we're talking
Okay,
about weight loss and you're eating
sure.
junk, you're going to be retaining a lot more
Okay.
water. Therefore, you're not necessarily having the same effect on the scale or visually.
Uh, but, um,
And it also depends how fluid sensitive you are.
Potentially, because that the thing is that okay, so yes, carbohydrates are more hydrophilic, but there's not a type of carbohydrate that is more hydrophilic than another once it's broken down.
I'm specifically saying if you're eating a bag of chips every day and your sodium's
Yeah.
imbalanced, you're not
Mhm.
going to have the same appearance as someone that's eating potato with balanced salt.
I don't necessarily agree with that. No, because aldosterone balances your water retention at about 12 to 14 days, your aldosterone level. Because the goal of aldosterone is to keep us, hemodynamically stable,
Okay.
right? And so, yeah, I'm not necessarily inclined to agree with the notion that you're going to hold more subcutaneous water after a given time if
Okay.
you're doing the same exact thing. Now, if you are like dieting and then you go and eat a bag of chips and you're not used to doing that, then yes, of course, you have no room for aldosterone to actually level out your fluid retention. But over time, our body has several mechanisms to make us hemodynamically stable. And so, no, I don't necessarily agree with that statement as like a
Well, you know a lot more about sodium than me, so I will
yeah,
take your
and
word
that's kind
for
of
it.
the other thing is that like that is that is a big thing sodium is a performance enhancing drug. And I mean, you've heard me talk about the benefits of sodium. And I mean, just like sodium people sleep on sodium, and people honestly need to realize that the American Heart Association is the only public health organization in the world that actively advocates against sodium. Everybody else in the fucking world, I mean, there's a reason that salt is so valuable. There's a reason that we literally got paid in salt at one point in time. Like during the Roman Empire, there were literally periods of time where you didn't get a paycheck in gold or coins. You got paid in salt. That's where the phrase "worth your salt" actually comes from. That's how valuable this is. And so of course it's a commodity, so it's going to have some kind of intrinsic value to it. But again, yeah, the American Heart Association is the only organization that still advocates for that, and it just flies in the face of very, very clear, very, prominent research. If anybody's interested, you can look up the PURE study. The PURE study is the biggest and longest study that was ever done on sodium intake, and the PURE study concluded at the end that people who supplemented with salt actually had lower rates of hypertension than people who restricted it.
Because their sodium channels are working properly, huh?
Well, it's because a lot of these studies that are done, they don't differentiate between high sodium coming from actually, supplementing with it, and high sodium from, fucking eating McDonald's 12 times a day.
It's technically supplementing.
And so,
you're saying it's a diet. You're saying the diet is the confounder. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's one of them. The other thing is just, I mean, a lot of the studies are just bad. They're just bad studies. They're self-reported. They're epidemiological. And those are just epidemiological studies have a very, very specific purpose, and their purpose is to get us to the next level of science, right? Okay, because that's the thing, is like relying on epidemiological studies to give us concrete data, it just doesn't work. It doesn't,
So
we can learn
of sodium. I think since it increases blood volume relatively significantly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because of the fact that, again, what's going to happen is you're actually going to hold more muscle. Yeah. So I was actually going to point this out to you earlier. Thank you for bringing this up. Actually, when your sodium is sufficient, when you are sufficiently, fed in sodium, sodium actually biases you to hold less subcutaneous water, because it actually draws it into the muscle and into the connective tissues. And so people who supplement with sodium, and now again, what you're saying is an acute effect. It is, and it's absolutely inarguable what you're saying. When you supplement with sodium over time and your body regulates it through the release of aldosterone, you will hold less subcutaneous water. And that's one of the reasons that, it's really interesting that, like, Stan Efferding is, one of the greatest bodybuilding coaches around. When Flex Wheeler came out of retirement, Stan Efferding was his coach. And Stan Efferding had Flex Wheeler on grams of sodium going into his competition. Which is wild when you know anything about how bodybuilders typically train, right?
Well, there's a reason why some of them die, right?
True statement.
I'm just trying to think how much sodium I take. So I supplement 3 teaspoons a day off the top.
Yeah.
And then probably 1.5 teaspoons of low salt to balance potassium.
Yeah.
What I think, there's a correlation between sodium volume, blood volume, and then erection capacity and size, because you literally have more plasma to push out the tissue.
Yeah, I don't think what you're noticing is fake. And here's why I don't think you're wrong. Have you ever noticed, like, look at the stats on, there's an inverse correlation to blood pressure and erection quality. So people with high blood pressure don't have good erections. And so I think that there is a correlation there, because, again, according to the PURE study, the people that supplemented with sodium actually had 20 points systolic lower blood pressure than the people who restricted sodium. So I believe that, coming down from hypertension or, lowering your blood pressure to an optimal value. And again, if somebody has good blood pressure, then supplementing with sodium isn't going to lower their blood pressure even more. Again, our body just needs sodium for its hemodynamic systems to actually balance themselves. And so it's one of these things where you're not going to overdo it. You're not going to OD on sodium, to the point where you crash your blood pressure. That's not going to happen. You can overdo sodium, absolutely. I mean, you can overeat broccoli and kill yourself, but that's not the point that I'm making. The point that I'm making is I think you're absolutely right. Maintaining an optimal hemodynamic balance, and that is to say, having good blood pressure increases erection quality. I believe there's a direct correlation there because, again, we have data. So
I'm not saying blood pressure. I'm saying blood volume.
Right, but what is blood volume? Blood volume is one of the major components of blood pressure, right? Because there are two components. There are two components to our hemodynamic system, right? We have a pump, and we have all of the vessels, right? Okay, so you've got your engine, and you've got your tubes, and then you've got the actual fluid that's running through it, right? So did I say two components? I meant three components. So there are three components, right? So this is another reason that sodium actually lowers blood pressure, is because sodium allows your blood to be it actually allows your blood to be thinner. So you're pumping a less viscous material through your blood. So a lot of times what you'll see is somebody supplement with sodium, and their hematocrit, which is the percentage of solids to liquids in your blood, their hematocrit will drop. So you'll see somebody with a borderline, you're going to stroke out and die hematocrit, and they will start supplementing with sodium. All of a sudden, their hematocrit will drop 5 or 10 points. Mm-hmm. That's significant. That's clinically significant.
Yeah.
And so,
just
I think
anecdotally, if I don't get 1.5 teaspoons in me of sodium, I have horrible brain fog. I'm groggy, and that's the number one way I fix that in the morning. So I don't know. Try it out, guys.
It's similar enough. I was looking over my notes from a stand efforting seminar that I went to years ago, and that was one of the things that he actually recommended for low energy. Was he was like, if your athletes are low energy, check their sodium. And I was like, oh goddamn, I never thought about that. But it makes so much sense. It makes all the fucking sense in the world when you think about what sodium actually does in your body. It's just why am I so stupid that I didn't intuit that?
You're just not taught it directly. But all right, let's go for another 12 minutes because we've been going for almost 2 hours, and then.
All right.
Apparently, everyone's over there, so you probably have a lot more questions than me.
Yeah, fucking mint sleeve said, "When is the sword fight?" I'm assuming you're talking about the lightsabers. In which case, the sword fight is going to be on pay-per-view next time we do a podcast.
That's going to be a bit difficult.
Yeah. Dude said, "Stop eating McDonald's, guys." Well, I don't know, dude. Stop eating McDonald's. It's really easy to say that. And I'm not saying that nutrient quality doesn't matter. I'm not saying that entirely. What I am saying is that there are actually a lot of people who have successfully lost weight and become much healthier by eating McDonald's. I don't want to sound stupid and say it's just all about calories, but at the end of the day, it's pretty much mostly all about calories.
Yeah, it's just law of thermodynamics. Really, you can eat McDonald's if you exercise. It's that simple. Because you can clear the junk in your blood, the saturated fat.
So dude said, the Seeker 128 said, "I think as far as salt goes, it really depends on the kind of salt, where it's sourced, how much, and how often. Handy if you're going to sweat like an athlete from a sauna session." So it is definitely important that if you're an athlete and you're going to sweat, you do get more. However, the fact of the matter about salt is that so long as you're actually talking about the molecule, the source is really kind of almost irrelevant. Now, I'm not saying the shit that goes along with it is, up for debate, because there is some real toxic bad shit that we can get in foods, and we don't
for the
want
minerals.
to overdo
Yeah.
that. But sodium chloride is sodium chloride, and that's what salt is sodium chloride. So salt is sodium chloride, which is about 40% sodium and 60% chloride. That's what salt is, and salt is salt is salt is salt. And if it's different than 40-60 sodium chloride, then it's not salt.
It's the
something else.
impurities in the mix is what he's referencing.
Yeah, there are additives, or there are other things in
or
it.
like if the mine is just impure, for example. And if then you have a bad processing facility, but
that could be. I think for the most part, salt is actually really easy to purify, though, because you can just mix it, and anything heavier than it just actually gets filtered out. Yeah. Fun story. My grandmother she went to Jerusalem when I was a kid, and she brought me back a vial of the water from the Dead Sea. Mm-hmm. And over time, it started to grow crystals in the bottom, just because the salinity of it was so high that the salt just started to crystallize, because it was still all of a sudden.
Well,
it was
I'm
just
staring at a salt tank right now, like my fish tank, and I get salt creep within a week. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, it just bounces up out of the air, it evaporates the salt. That's it.
Yeah. That's cool.
No, it's annoying because it messes with your salinity of the tank, and then it fucks with your corals.
I'm saying it's a cool thing that happens. It's science happening in your freaking room.
A fucking nuisance.
What about Himalayan pink salt versus table salt? I would love to tell you that there's a big difference. But there, if you're talking about cooking, if you're talking about taste profile, yes, source of salt absolutely matters. So,
but that comes back to the contaminants.
Yes, I use iodized. I use iodized sea salt for all of my cooking, and that is because 9 out of 10 Americans are iodine deficient. Iodine is a necessary nutrient for your thyroid function. So if you or someone you love is iodine deficient, switching to iodized salt, and that's why we iodize salt to begin with, is because, as our government, it's the same reason we fortify milk, right? We put vitamin D in milk because at one point in time, vitamin D was, a really difficult thing to get through your normal diet. So iodine, a lot of the times, really, really hard to get in your standard American diet. So a really easy thing that they did to try and fix it, because it was becoming a public health crisis, was they put they put iodine in the salt. That's why we have iodized salt. So if you aren't getting iodine in your diet anywhere else, make sure you're using iodized salt. It's a really easy way to get it in your diet. The other way is to use a high quality organic cranberry juice. You will get
so
hundreds. It is so expensive, right?
It's $16 for a quart.
Bro, it is expensive, but you don't need that much. 4 ounces provides you with 300% of your recommended daily amount of iodine. I had some of my nutrition and training clients tell me they couldn't drink that stuff south of 5 p.m. because it just wires them, just stimulates their thyroid so much. So wild stuff. But yes, if again, he clarified. He said for sure he meant the microplastics, impurities, toxins, etc. I've heard table salt is meant to be bad for you. Something about cutting and tearing your arteries.
Table salt's not supposed to be bad for you. It's the lack of protections in the manufacturing plant that are bad for you.
Yeah, so it's not somebody out there who's maliciously making extra sharp salt.
Just throwing Agent Orange in there, yeah.
Yeah. So no. As far as
diatomaceous earth.
So no, as far as it being more healthy for you or something? Because I've heard certain people try to say that it's not. It's not more healthy for you.
No.
One way or the other.
It's just science at that point. So, like, if you're genuinely concerned about microplastics, they're everywhere already. But you can probably find an ethically sourced salt producer and pay out the wazoo for it. But
Yeah. So to that end, there's likely. Well, here's a factoid for you. Most of the Himalayan pink salt in the U.S. is just dyed. The FDA doesn't have parameters. The FDA doesn't actually have parameters on what you can call Himalayan pink salt.
that's crazy.
It doesn't have to be from the Himalayas. It doesn't even have to be pink. It does have to be salt. You can't say it. You can't say that. But that's only because we have. Wow. So my light just died in here.
You're good.
I guess I'm just gonna be like glowy. I know we're wrapping this up anyway, so I'll just be. But yeah, it's most of the Himalayan pink salt that you're buying, unless you're paying, pretty decent amount for it. It's not actually Himalayan pink salt, but there are differences in salt in terms of taste quality. But as far as health benefits, no, not necessarily, not really, not intrinsically. Like BD was saying, it's more about the things that come along with it.
So, for anyone that's listening, tickle my fancy. Take a decent bit of salt, measure your dick afterwards. Tell me to see if you had a increase in erection size. You should see vascularity improvements.
Is that an acute benefit, or is that
It really depends
over
how
time?
deficient it is. Like, you should see probably like 1/8 of an inch, right?
No, I'm asking you. Like, okay, say I was the person you're recommending it to, and I'm deficient. Like, you just, I ate like a shit diet, and I'm deficient. So, like, you recommended it to me. When should I expect to see a better boner? Like, can I just take it like Viagra, or do I need to do it for like 2 weeks, like I was saying earlier, because it takes 2 weeks for aldosterone to like really,
I think whenever. So, when does the plasma volume rise?
Well, that's actually a matter of like how quickly you can keep up with your hydration, because if you can hydrate appropriately, then it's going to happen immediately. Don't let me, I don't want to say immediately. It will happen
Same day.
basically within an hour, because if you want to have like one of the best training sessions of your life, you just dose some sodium and go and just wonder why in God's name you have an amazing training session. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, if we're going to quantify this, 1 teaspoon of table salt, sodium chloride, 16 to 32 ounces of water, depending on hydration. Give it an hour to 90 minutes. Measure your PP for me and report back next stream.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be interesting.
It's just like I noticed a night and day difference. Just the
Yeah,
vascularity. So
that makes sense. So this is fun. So I want to tackle one thing, because somebody said something. Somebody said, J Rod, what's up, dude? That's one of my clients. So J Rod said iodine isn't good for Hashimoto's. Yes. Okay. So iodine isn't good for Hashimoto's. Neither are Twinkies good for somebody who has diabetes. So what I'm saying is we can't compare disease and non-disease states. Okay. So we can't talk about things like Hashimoto's. Of course, if you have some disease state going on, then you need to take those considerations, for your specific condition. So yeah, don't do a bunch of iodine if you have Hashimoto's disease. My recommendation is for people who are in non-disease states. So the question, fucking mint sleeves. I've just always assumed that is what that is, right? It's fucking mint.
Yeah.
That
I just
FKN
yeah.
mint.
I would assume
I just always said it that way in my head. You can correct me if it's not.
it'd be weird
But
if it
fucking
wasn't.
Vince Lee's, he said, question for both of you. BD, did you feel better leaned out or now that you're bulked up? Same with you, Perv. You're lean now. I'm lean now because I was put in the fucking hospital and lost 70 pounds in 3 months. That's why I have no shoulders, is because I actually had nerve damage that now, I can, on my last live stream, I was talking about this a little bit, but like, 6 months ago, I couldn't lift my hands. I couldn't lift my hands above, my hip height. And so I'm not lean. I'm actually the fattest I've ever been. My body fat percentage is way fucking high right now. My body fat percentage is, I guarantee you, it's in the upper 30%.
You're
Because
being hard on yourself, but
no, dude, when you lose that much weight in that little of amount of time, guess what it's going to predominantly be? It's going to be fucking muscle tissue, because muscle tissue is the most metabolically expensive tissue that your body has. So when you go into these extreme deficits, you're going to be burning the shit out of muscle. So I lost 70 pounds, and we can safely say that the overwhelming majority of it was muscle. So no, dude, actually I am actually not lean. I am actually very fat, in terms of body fat percentage. But thank you, I appreciate it. I I don't know. I never felt really good when I was like really lean. I sent BD the first picture, I think, like that I've ever sent him of like when I had abs, and that was like right before I started PE. So that's like a little more than 3.5, almost 4 years ago, maybe. Yeah. So, um, I have been lean enough to have abs. I wasn't as good at lifting as I wanted to be back then. So I started gaining weight. It was a lot easier for me to squat heavier, just being heavier. Honestly, just way easier for me. And to me, that's a more important goal for me, is I want to squat 1,000 pounds by the time that I'm 40. That's my goal. A lot of people ask me all the time. They're like, why are you so into health and wellness and like penis enlargement, and you're fat as fuck? Well, it's because I do want to have a big dick, but I actually want to accomplish something wild like squatting 1,000 pounds before I'm 40, more than I want to lose, my 2-inch fat pad. Like, it's important to me. And no, I'm not promoting this as like I'm the beacon of health and like I'm so awesome. No, powerlifting is dumb, especially at the level that I do it at. It's not healthy. Don't fucking do this. So, so what about you? Do you feel better when you're leaned out, or now that you've got some size on you?
so mine's past is complicated. For context, everyone, I was a 119-pound 9-year-old, so I was always meant to be a big guy. But
Damn.
yeah, a lot of people convinced me then that my size was an issue. So I've always tried to stay lean, but like literally mentally, my body wanted to be an exceptionally large individual.
But
So
like, you're tall. You're tall. Like, how
I'm
tall were you
6'3".
then?
Well, I was 95th percentile then too.
Yeah, so fun story for everybody. Like, the first time that BD and I met each other, the first thing that I said to him was, I was like, "Wow, you are tall." And he was like, "Your hands are fucking huge."
Yeah. And I got big hands, like XL size hands. It's just my body's apparently bigger. But like I'm not overly fat. Like I still have top abs and everything like that. It's just my body wants to be big. And when you have a big body, you're gonna have a big waist. So I
Yeah,
feel a lot better. Like I was deathly at like 193 for my size. Just
yeah.
like with my bone structure, it would have been the equivalent of someone at 6 foot being like 145. So,
So I think for context, when I went into the hospital, I was 310
fuck, dude. I'm,
at like low 20% body fat. So you do the math on that. So I
yeah.
was 310, and yeah, when I came out, uh, 3 weeks, later, or actually, I think I spent I'm still so hazy. Like, it took me so long for my brain to come back after all of that. So, like, I can't remember if I was unconscious for 3 weeks or if my entire hospital stay was 3 weeks. I was I lost 70 pounds either way.
Well, I gained
I
it,
just can't.
so
I can't remember if it was 3 weeks or 4 weeks, but yeah, my body fat percentage just went fucking upside down. Like, I
yeah.
lost so much lean mass, and I'm again, like, I couldn't lift my arms, so I just continued. Like, I lost weight, yeah, but I am 20 pounds heavier now than when I got out of the hospital, and it's just all fat because it's literally like I was trying to eat in a calorie surplus for the sake of having
To shoot.
the raw materials to rebuild. Yeah, like, my nerves were fucked up. My nerves were literally compressed and crushed, and so I was literally eating in a calorie surplus for nerve regeneration, for optimal cellular regeneration. And so that's the thing, is it's like, that's actually when I started to change my mind about the ideas of PE and, like, being in a calorie deficit versus being in a bulk or something like that, is because when I did this deep dive to look into the actual energy, like the actual cellular energy requirements, I found out that, just like, I think most people, myself included, before I went to the hospital, really had a narrow understanding of how cells work in a
Metabolically.
deficit. Metabolically. So we tend to think about things like, oh, it's harder to grow muscle when you're in a deficit or at maintenance.
It's harder to grow everything.
I mean, it's hard to grow everything. Yeah,
And
exactly.
So, like, it literally slows down your metabolism. If you go low enough, your fingernails won't grow. Like, that's the bottom line. So,
yeah, you're absolutely right.
And the other thing I noticed
you want to know something wild?
Go for it.
I had these ridges on my fingernail from when I went into the hospital. And I literally, like, they grew out from the time that I was in the hospital, but, like, it was crazy because I looked them up. They're called brewer's lines, and it's exactly what you just said. It's like you become so malnourished that your fingernails just, like, your nail beds just stop fucking producing nail
so you're
material.
talking like the white line, and that's always a telltale sign of nutrient deficiency, right?
No, it's actually an indent in the nail.
Oh, so your nail bed collapsed.
Yeah, basically it just, like, stopped producing any nail tissue. But the thing is, your nails don't actually, like, completely stop growing out, so it almost just, like, stretches and thins a portion. So it was really weird. So it's like it's a ridge going across your fingernail.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's called, like, a brewer's line. It's crazy. I'd never heard of such shit.
Yeah. So what was I going to say? So I went from 193 to just under 260 as of today in about 16 weeks. Yes, that's insane. Yes, I would be fat normally, but I was literally coming out of, like, the steepest deficit you can think of. I was originally 232 before I started this, roughly 18 to 20% body fat. I got down to like 6 to 8% body fat because I lost so much fat. I had such a skin drape that you couldn't even fucking tell that I was that lean. And then I introduced carbs, and I just kept growing, and it kept growing, and kept growing, and it finally pittered out like 2 weeks ago. But I also been too fucking stressed out to eat enough. So, point being is, I feel a lot better now. I'm tired from growing, but I don't feel wired as fuck. If you are fat, you'll be able to tell. You can grab it. If you can't feel, like, musculature under it, if you slap it and it jiggles instead of, like, ripples like water, that is going to be a telltale sign that you're probably carrying a bit too much fat. And then you should probably diet. But otherwise, as I was talking with Adam, there are so many ways to manipulate your perceived leanness that just going off of, like, let's say, mass and vascularity is not necessarily the best way to go about it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're I think you're right. There was a conversation that I was having the other day about sumo wrestlers, as I do, you know, because that's just a normal
It's a
topic of
normal
conversation.
conversation for you.
No, you want to know what's wild is they've actually done a lot of studies on sumo wrestlers. It's not right. It's not like common knowledge for us here in the U.S. because we're not like real big sumo fans. But like, dude, you want to know like some? You want to know some seriously cool athletes that I think every strength athlete needs to like learn about? It's fucking sumo wrestlers, dude. These guys, they know some shit. They know some shit about like how to manipulate the type of mass that they put on, and we can learn a lot about these guys. You know, we can learn a lot from these guys about strength and nutrition. And it's really interesting because one of the things that they've actually shown about sumo wrestlers is the density of their fat cells is different than a normal person's. Like it's actually, I'm not going to say it's an entirely different fat cell, but you know, for everybody who's listening, like you don't. So muscle cells just get bigger and smaller indefinitely. Like they just get bigger and smaller. And fat cells are not like that, though. Fat cells will get bigger to a point, and then when they get too big, they will cause new fat cells to grow. And so there is an upper limit on how big a certain fat cell can get. And so, like, they basically have found that these sumo guys, like, there is an upper limit. They're like their average fat cell is a different size than the average person who would be of a similar body fat. Additionally, it's
So
really
they're more
interesting
metabolically
because
active then.
yeah, yeah. So additionally, are um, they are able to, well, basically, despite them being big and looking soft, they're actually at a much lower body fat percentage than they look. They are at a body fat percentage that other people, you know, like we would say average or slightly heavy people would like probably love to be at, just because of the amount of lean mass that they carry around is fucking overwhelming. It's absolutely insane.
And where they carry it too, it's in the trunk and quads and glutes. So that's just gonna
Those
make
motherfuckers have huge legs. Those motherfuckers have gigundous legs. If they ever leaned down, like their calves would be the size of most people's hamstrings. You know,
I don't disagree.
because like
Just
no, because dude, nobody has better calves than fat people. Nobody has better calves than fat people. It's like that. Your calves are absolutely 100% biased to be endurance muscles, and so you just have to train the shit out of them. And nothing puts a bigger training stimuli on calves than just being fucking heavy.
and walking
Just
on your toes. Yep.
yeah, just you want big calves, obesity. There you go.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a good time to end everything. You know,
I think it's a good place
let's
to
just
wrap it up because I have to be
end
to
on
bed
obesity.
in
Yeah,
17 minutes. So
cool.
I am actively trying to rework my schedule, guys, to be live more often. Apparently, Perv is killing it, and that's why he has so many more concurrents. So
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Subscribe to my channel, guys.
I don't give a shit if you subscribe to mine, but go for it if you want to. Um, I don't want to say next Thursday. We'll try again, but saying it out loud will give me pressure. So hopefully, I'll see you then.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate you being here, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right. All right, dude.
All right. We're done.
We are done. Sorry, I get really low energy really fast anymore.